John Scully, a name that would later echo through boxing arenas around the world, began his journey here long before the bright lights and roaring crowds. He was just a kid with a pair of gloves, a heavy bag, and an unstoppable determination. This is the story of John Scully's rise to boxing stardom.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Hartford, Connecticut, let's welcome the challenger, the Iceman, John Scully.
All that training you did with this man right here, this is why, right now.
Grew up in Windsor, Connecticut. Back then in the 70s, like 28,000 people. It was a mixed town, black, white, Hispanic.
I actually, I do remember the first time I saw him. He was with his father in Sage Allen or the building that would eventually become Kmart. His father knew my father was a baseball and football coach. So they started talking, and eventually my father became his first baseball coach.
I met John in 6th grade. That was 1978. And I saw him on his bike in the parking lot. And I just said to this boy named Patrick, I said, I want him to be my boyfriend. Patrick went and told John, well, congratulations, you have yourself a girlfriend.
I was coaching in Springfield in Central City Gym. I had Pat Ireland. Pat and John knew each other. And I think John had seen me at a show working at Corner down in Waterbury, I think. After the first day he came, he just started training with us.
I was 14 years old when I met John. He was probably about 16 years old, and we met at the Windsor Locks gym. It was a community center. So I knew my parents wouldn't let me go down to the North End of Hartford to train at Johnny Duke's place. So I saw an article about John in the paper. The funny thing is that article sat on my couch for 3 weeks probably. And I went on down to the gym and I met John. Our friendship took off from there.
It was in high school when I realized that, he really loved boxing, but he had started since he was like 12.
He could have been the most popular guy in his school. He's a great looking dude. He's on the cover of newspapers. He took me under his wing.
Biggest connection is Muhammad Ali. He's a huge Muhammad Ali fan. I'm a huge Muhammad Ali fan. We grew a strong bond through Muhammad Ali and through boxing. This here is a Daily News New York paper from 1971, the day after Ali and Frazier fought.
I have known John Scully since he was 15 years old. I'm not sure who his coach was back then. It may even have been Desi Clark. We knew he was like this up-and-coming prospect. But where I definitely met John, in addition to that, was at Universal Life Gym, which was Johnny Datro's gym. John was being brought up there by his coach, who at that point was Joe Burrell, who was a really great guy, and a former sparring partner, Willie Pep. That's when we first met. And it was already out there that, okay, well, this kid's a prospect. My mother and father got divorced when I was young, really, like I was about, I think 5. So my father, he lived on the town line of Hartford and Windsor, rough area where he was at, worlds away. It was only a mile and a half. I felt like, man, I'm living 2 different lives here. I'm getting 2 different educations.
I came to know a lot about his family, especially, his mother was like a second mother to me. His father, if you know anything about John, if you've known John if you're an OG friend of John's, you know his dad.
Scully's dad was fun. I'll stay over Scully's house for the whole weekend, and he was just, it was real professional with us, but funny.
His dad always used to call me Tiger. His dad was a real character. Hey, Tiger, how you doing? How you doing, this and that? And for some reason, school came up. And I said, I don't know if I said, how's he doing in school or this and that? And his dad goes, school? He doesn't need school. He's gonna be a superstar. He's gonna be a pro boxer. And that was completely the reality.
He worked every day since he was 14 years old till he was like 86. He worked every day. He was all about making money. We did like boxing together. He was a big boxing fan.
When you say somebody lives it, drinks it, sleeps it, that's him. It's all about boxing.
I would wrap my hands in toilet paper. I would put tape over them. So I would fight 15 rounds. I would keep track of the rounds. I would score the round. I'd fight myself. I would hit myself and throw the punches and get dropped and all this stuff. And then I would score the rounds. I would do the winner. I would announce the winner in the bathroom, in the mirror with a hairbrush. And I would be real dramatic. I'd be like, and there was a ring announcer, 145 for the winner in the blue corner, John Scully. So I would do that. I would do an interview in the mirror. I mean, it was just, I was very theatrical.
John used to write when he was younger. He would write like letters, and they'd be, his father would kind of show them off. He can promote a fight if he has to. He can manage fighters. He can train fighters. He could put on a show.
And James Condon scores the belt. 95-94 for the winner by split decision, John Scully.
He can do all aspects of the game.
First 4 books that I read cover to cover repeatedly. They were the 1952 Ring Record book. It was Sugar Ray Robinson's autobiography, Willie Pep's autobiography, and Muhammad Ali's autobiography. So I read those books every weekend. So I had 2 lives growing up. During the week, I'm in a middle-class neighborhood and I'm going to school and I'm playing baseball and, we have a back deck and we're eating hot dogs on the back deck. On the weekends, I'm in the North End Hartford at 11 years old at 1 o'clock in the morning playing Space Invaders at North Main Pizza. I'm talking to prostitutes and I'm talking to guys just out of prison. I feel lucky to have gotten both sides. I was able to experience a lot more than an average kid from my street might have experienced. As I get older, I realize I needed both of those experiences, to deal with, life, but also with a lot of the kids I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with kids from both sides. So I have a little bit of experience with both of them.
What inspired a boy from Windsor to step into the ring? The answers lie in the voices of those who knew him best. Through their words, we begin to understand the man behind the gloves.
As an amateur, he was without question an open elite amateur. He had won the Olympic trials. He had been certainly recruited by Sugar Ray Leonard when Sugar Ray Leonard was trying to score guys off the U.S. team.
We were all at that time, we were elite amateurs. So it was me, him, they brought Gerald McClellan in, they brought Lamar Parks in. All of us kind of spar with each other. Me, Gerald, and Lamar, I think got a chance to even spar with Sugar Ray. We all worked at just kind of working out together, because Scully was the man, trust me.
Scully immediately came in and, you could see, beautiful lateral movement. And that's how he first started as an amateur.
A young boxer by the name of John Scully, who back on January 15th, I introduced you to, 20 years old, out of Windsor, who at the time was training to defend his New England Golden Gloves title, which he did. And then he went on to runner-up status in the National Golden Gloves. And now, well, he's chasing an even bigger dream. From the outside, the Central City Gym here on Springfield's Sumner Street looks like any other gym.
John was a little bit different of a boxer. He was more running around and throw a lot of punches, elusive type of fighter. With me, he became stronger. So we would do both. We could stay inside and bang and counter punch. It worked really well, and we had a lot of success with that.
What's his best suit as a boxer?
I think it's his mental attitude and his mental toughness. I think that's the biggest thing, because if you're not mentally prepared, you're not going to make it, no matter how physically prepared you are.
As an amateur, he was a hard-nosed, straightforward come fighter. You know what I mean? He was like he was a Tiro Gotti before a Tiro Gotti. But he was a little bit faster than Tiro Gotti. I think he may have had just a little more boxing skill than Gotti, because he didn't get hit as much as Gotti did.
We went to the Eastern Olympic trials, and he was really in shape, because I think we were We were pushing the car a lot. I had him pushing and pulling the car in running sprints. His legs were real strong. He beat, he would remember the name of the guy, a Marine Corps. He beat him, and then he beat Allen, I think, in the finals. And Allen was, he was a ranked fighter at the time. He was one of the better fighters. He jumped so high. He thought I was crazy when I have him go over to Forest Park in Springfield. We pushed the car. People would stop and try and help us. I said, no, he doesn't need any help.
Beating Darren Allen as an amateur was the pinnacle for me because it wasn't just him. He was a world champion. He was a national champion. He was, you know, a guy I admired. I looked up to Darren Allen. I knew who he was. I knew everything about him. Beating him was huge for me just because of who he was, what he symbolized. To me, he symbolized the whole USA boxing, the whole amateur program.
They was at a tournament and ran into each other. I saw him fight. It was so tough. Kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. I knew everybody feared him because of his aggressive style. But I hadn't seen a real guy with that type of aggression in a long time.
We met under some very strange circumstances. There was a competition, a pre-Olympic competition that was being held in Montreal, which put the Canadian team up against a team from Ireland, an Irish team. This was June 1988. I had two guys on the team, Howard Grant and Otis Grant. At the last minute, the middleweight that was supposed to fight Otis Grant from Ireland didn't show up. So a mutual friend of ours named Bob Miller, who passed away recently, he said, well, I got a kid, Irish John Scully, you know, perfect, you know, an Irishman, bring him in. And I figured, okay, you know what, this should be an easy touch for my guy, Otis Grant. You know, Otis Grant is ranked in the world. You know, his Olympic prospect. The old adage of you can't judge a book by its cover. Well, there you go. It came true. Just basically battered John from pillar to post in the first round. You know, just beat him up all over the ring, but couldn't get him out of there. And halfway through the second round, Scully starts coming back now. Now he's working. And Otis had basically shot his bolt at that point, you know, and didn't have anything left. So long story short of a ridiculously embarrassing night for us, you know, in our performance and unprofessionalism, John beat us and got the decision in Montreal, you know, so, you know, he won the fight and we became lifelong friends as a result of that.
We met each other in the New England Golden Gloves. He fought Keith Providence, and he beat that kid from the first to the third round, and I don't know how they gave it to Providence.
A decision the fans in attendance are rightfully booed. I didn't do enough. You know, you can always do more. And if I don't win, you know, it's going to be all on me that I didn't do enough. And, you know, anytime I've lost in the past, I've never been shut out or knocked out or beaten bad. It's just I've lost close fights or I just didn't do enough.
I met John Scully when I was a little kid. I was like 16 years old. My first time going out for nationals, I met John Scully. My father used to always yell, keep the stick on the chair, keep the stick on him. Every time Scully sees me, he says, keep the stick on the chair, keep the stick on him. We also met in Eastern Olympic trials.
My father took me to see John Scully ever since I was a little kid. He'd say, watch this guy Scully, he's going to be a really good fighter one day. So I used to watch him, Vinny Pazienza, I watched Ray Oliveira, Scott Pemberton, who I ended up fighting later in my career. So I was a good student, you know, and they were good teachers. Eventually, stopped sparring with them, working with them, and getting better. And they helped me get better and helped me learn how to be a good fighter.
When I was a young amateur, when I was 18 years old, 1985, I was training at the Stowe Village gym in Stowe Village, Hartford, Connecticut. And I was training a group of kids.
I met Scully back between 1993-94 when I had my first boxing match against one of his fighters. Now we good friends, best friend, Dwayne Harris.
I met Iceman, John back, say like 88, 89. I was 4 years old. And it's just like I'm watching. And it's just, I used to just watch and watch. And so every day when he was done, like, you got a quarter? You got a quarter? He messed up by giving me that quarter one time. Every time I see him, he could be pulling up, getting out that car. I run into that Toyota. Got a quarter, Scully? You got a quarter? And get in the gym. Come on, in the gym. And that's how we started to grow.
First time I used to hang out with, gonna be honest, with a white person.
November 1992, I was a 14-year-old kid off the streets of Hartford. He was hitting a speed bag, and I just standing right there looking up at him, and I'm like, can I try this? And he looked down at me, in other words, like, wait your turn. I got on there, I didn't know how to hit the speed bag, and he got me started on it, and that's how we kind of proceeded from there, man. Built a great relationship, and here we are, almost 30-something years later.
I met Scully 1988 in Berry Square. That's when the Ghostbuster came out at that time. And he was the first person that took me to the movie theater.
Mom used to go to Johnny Duke's. He had the boxing gym in Bellevue Square. Dukes asked my mom one day, like basically, well, why he don't never come in? Well, he's scared of the bag. So he pulled me in there. It was just kind of weird from where I'm coming growing up. And I just see blacks and Hispanics. And it's just this one Caucasian guy in the gym. But he nice.
One of the things that I loved about Ice was that after he was an amateur fighter, that he was very dedicated to the kids in the gym, training them and helping them and traveling with them and stuff like that. I loved that about Ice.
Since I was in the baby carriage, I was going to the gym with him. I never had like a babysitter, daycare. I was just with my dad.
So the kids are coming into a gym, they're looking for something. In many cases, they're looking for a dad who wasn't there. Johnny Duke was that dad for unknown thousands of Connecticut kids, Hartford kids. And now Scully has taken over that role, and I don't think he ever thought about it.
I met Scully, it was in the 90s, man. It's been a long time. I fought up in Connecticut. And after the fight was over, he approached my coach, my father and them, and asked them, can I be a sparring partner with him? And he was getting ready to fight Michael Nunn. And he asked me, hey man, you're southpaw, you're pretty tall, you fight like Michael Nunn. Would you be interested in giving me some boxing? You get me ready to help me prepare for Michael Nunn. So I'm like, sure, And long story short, I end up, we went out to Treasure Island in Florida, or George Cruz, and he was working, Scully and I got a lot of good work in, and we became really close.
I've known Iceman since I was probably about 10, 11 years old. He used to train my dad.
I call him the encyclopedia of boxing. Yep. The encyclopedia of Connecticut boxing. John will argue with just about any fighter in here. He's telling them something about themselves that they actually went through and forgot, but John hasn't. He's locked in on boxing. That's John.
Up in the National Golden Gloves, and he has had an excellent stretch since then, looking to get back.
I first met John when he was an amateur. He came into the Golden Gloves finals, and he was going to fight a guy named Joey DeGrandis, who was from South Boston. And DeGrandis was just kind of a tough guy, South Boston kid, and he was talking a lot of smack about what was going to happen. Scully won easily. And so they're standing in the ring, and people are kind of mulling around. And the next thing, I'm down at ringside. And the next thing I hear is some loud yelling and noises. And DeGrandis has got his boys are now in the ring. The next thing you know, they're screaming about a gun, and Scully's being surrounded by his guys.
And it's going to be a while before peace and order has been restored.
But he's been a boxing guy, since I first met him as a teenager.
My first time at the Nationals ever, which is every amateur's dream. You want to go to a national tournament. You want to leave your area and go to the Nationals. So I go to the Nationals. I win 2 fights. I make it to the quarterfinals, the final 8. And I fight a guy by the name of Curtis Mingo from North Carolina. Curtis was a number 9 in the country in my weight class at the time. I used to think about Curtis Mingo every day because he hurt me. It wasn't just because he beat me, it's because he hurt me. A year and a half later, we get to the National PAL tournament in Florida, and I see the bout sheet with all the names of the brackets, and I see his name. And as soon as I saw his name, I knew we were going to fight each other. As luck would have it, I'm walking through, and Curtis Mingo and 1 or 2 of his friends are sitting there. I felt like they were laughing at me. They laughed. I don't know if they were laughing at a joke or at me. I thought they were laughing at me. That was not good for him. And I remember slipping the jab, throwing a right hand, perfect. Counted Mingo out. I win the Nationals, and up until October of 1987 in Jacksonville, Florida, nothing had ever happened to me that made me as happy as that day.
He was great. He really was. He was good. You know, he was fast. He modeled himself after Ali. He did a lot of stuff, and I always used to smile when I would see it. I said, "Wow."
He was actually brilliant in some ways. I always had said this to him, and with all due respect and love, that I thought if you retained a little bit of his amateur style in his pro style, then, you know, it may have served him very well. He was first taught to be basically a runner, a lateral mover, a ring general like Muhammad Ali, Hector Camacho, Sugar Ray Leonard, and he was fantastic at it.
I got into boxing around the age of 13, 14. He trained me for all 14 fights. I was a 2010 novice Golden Gloves champion. Being around Iceman, this dude is a boxing encyclopedia.
I could tell you to this day, probably every single amateur fighter he fought, every pro fighter he fought. You know, he just has that mind in the boxing game. But he has a love for the sport as well.
If you dip down to throw a left hook to the body, you know, a lot of people pull their arm back far, you know, like a slingshot, and they try to throw it in. And I say, no, man, like, we're going to do it shorter. We're going to shorten the distance, but we're going to do it faster. You're going to add speed to it. It's like a bullet. You know, a bullet doesn't need to travel 100 yards to kill you. It could travel 2 inches and kill you because it's going so fast. You know what I mean? The speed dictates what the bullet does once it hits the target. So I'm under that mentality. I always use that type of mentality. You know, I say to people, I'll give an example. I say speed kills, right? Speed is important. And I say, I'll tell you one secret training thing I do. We have a mirror in the gym. And I say, you see that mirror, right? That mirror is 10 feet away from us. Right now, it's 10 feet away. If we take a baseball and we throw that baseball underhanded at the mirror and toss it to the mirror, it's going to bounce off the mirror, and the mirror is going to be exactly the same. It's not going to break. It's not going to crack. It's not going to shake. Nothing is going to happen to that mirror. Now, if I take that same ball, that same distance, and I throw it with my arm overhand with 10 times more speed than I did when I tossed it, it's going to break that mirror into 1,000 pieces, and it's going to shatter all over this gym. Same ball, same distance, same everything. All I changed was the speed of it.
See that water. Deep breath, baby. We're kicking in second gear now. We're kicking in second gear. You hear me? Yeah. How you feel?
Great.
Damn right.
From the moment he first stepped into the professional ring, it was clear. John Scully was no ordinary fighter. His name became synonymous with determination, precision, and heart. With each fight, he climbed higher, delivering performances that left audiences breathless. In a career filled with defining moments, Scully proved time and again that he belonged amongst the best.
Now, he never became a world champion, but he was the top contender for a number of years, you know, fought for a world championship, fought in Germany where he had no chance of winning because even if you knocked a guy out, they disqualify you. So
He was a rising star, the same that Otis was doing, you know, and maybe I could say that he was probably ahead of us because he was headlining shows and we were fighting on the undercard, you know?
My whole time boxing, especially as an amateur into the pros, I looked at it like it was fun. I had fun. Like I had fun boxing. It was fun to me. Like when I knocked a guy out and he was on the ground, it never occurred to me that he would be hurt. Like other people in the audience are freaking out and this is horrible. I always knew it was like a cartoon. You see the guy get shot, Bugs Bunny, whatever, and you know he's going to get up. You know he's going to be fine. There's no question. So when I hurt people, it never crossed my mind that they would be hurt. Now I see them, they get up, and no, we're good. Let's go home. Let's go eat. Let's hang out after, you know. Now I realize, man, this game is no joke. My mentality was always, you have to be able to withstand pain. I would go into fights thinking what Hagler must have been thinking. Like you may hit me, you may hurt me, but I'm gonna come. And if the fight lasts for 100 rounds, I'm gonna be here in the 100th round, and you're gonna be a little too tired to get this done. So that was my mentality.
We had two things that probably weren't necessarily ever discussed, but that we were alike. And one was, I always thought that you had to train like a killer to be a fighter. Like, you didn't just walk into you had to be like in crazy shape. And John felt the same way, breaking down and watching fights, kind of understanding what's going on. And that training, that's the kind of coach I was.
If I'm in Las Vegas at an event and somebody approaches me, 99 out of 100 times they're going to mention the fight with Michael Nunn. They're either going to say they thought I won, they're going to say it was a great fight, you gave him a great fight, it was a close fight, you did much better than the judges gave you credit for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Michael Nunn, even though it was not a victory, that's the fight people know me
Here
for.
at Ledyard, Connecticut, Foxwoods Resorts and Casino, where Michael Nunn in the white trunks is battling John Scully in the black trunks. Nunn, the 32-year-old former champion, and Scully, a 28-year-old resident of Hartford, Connecticut, who came in here with only 4 losses in his pro career and against 35 wins. Michael Nunn throws lots of punches even now. Look at that.
And that is by far his biggest edge from a percentage of landed in this.
I love the way he learned how to block punches really well.
Too, we don't, usually two southpaws will negate each other.
Yes.
And Scully wants to take away a style. Turn this into an interesting fight.
Hey, I'll go one step further. When have you seen two southpaws? Under a minute left to go here in round 2.
He was a great defensive fighter. He was good at blocking punches.
John was always very defensive. He was worried about defense more than offense. I was more of an offensive fighter compared to him. He was knowledgeable. He knew how to pick his shots. He knew how to pick his locations.
Intelligent fighter. He would always know a lot about his opponent. John was never unprepared.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get Nunn. I thought the pressure was going to get to Nunn. It was a very good fight, but he never did really catch him, but I thought he was going to get Nunn.
Considering the level of opposition, I would say it's probably my proudest moment as a pro was competing with him at that level,
No matter what the opponent's reputation was or how many fights he had, if he just had one fight somewhere on the other side of the world.
He always knew the other obscure fighters and knew all their records and everything. And I'd be like, yeah, that's okay. We're going to beat him anyway. I don't care about that, but it was important to him.
So he was always prepared.
Things don't faze me. I've been there, you know what I mean? So, on a world stage with cuts and hurt and, cramps and, all these kind of things. So boxing, like I say, for better or worse, has made me a different person than I would have been if I didn't find boxing.
His victories weren't just his own. They were for everyone who believed in the power of hard work, resilience, and the drive to be the best. This is the journey of the Iceman.
Outside of myself, if they said who's the only person you think of that is as nice, as giving, and as kind of a person as you are, I would have to say John Scully.
A lot of guys who would have fought at the level that John fought at ultimately would have left their town. He was always a Hartford guy.
When I was a young amateur, when I was 18 years old, 1985, I was training at the Stowe Village gym in Stowe Village, Hartford, Connecticut. I liked it, and it was fun training the kids and sparring with them and helping them out.
It was already the triple impact, me, Scully, in the land, though.
We both didn't have any fights at the time. I had just started literally like 2 months prior to that. And he just kind of took us under his wing, man, and kind of started training us every day. And then we started having our first bouts.
Then seeing me end up coming in.
Started boxing in 93.
Mike Tyson, move over. Here's Sammy Vega, a 15-year-old boxer from Hartford who was the national champ.
My stepdad named Julian Solis. He was a world champion in the 80s, flyweight. He's the one that started me training. Scully trained at the same gym, the Swan Center, where he had his top fighters at the time.
They ain't like Scully.
Like, Sammy and them, they did not like Scully at first, but how Scully is, he's so good of a person, and he's so about boxing, just Sammy grew to us.
A few years later, when I was at the San Juan Center, I had my team. We call ourselves the 5-Star Bomb Squad, which was myself, Sammy Vega, Dwayne Hairston, Greg Kyler, and Orlando Cordova.
Me and Greg and Sammy was just, we'd go 12 rounds toe to toe with each other.
He was like a big brother to us, father figure. He was just that guy, man. We just didn't hang out in the gym. Picking us up on the weekends, we were going to Six Flags at the time, which is a Riverside Park at the time, things like that. So it was just more than just boxing.
I brought these guys to dozens and dozens of tournaments and all over the country. We went to Las Vegas, we went to Florida, we went to Kansas City, Ohio, New York.
Under Scully, I won 6 national titles. Not only myself, but Orlando won some national titles. Dwayne, Greg. He has something unique. He knows how to, in a way, in a good way, brainwash you.
Go, baby, go! Scully and Rocky banging out on the middle of the side of the street. 11 o'clock at night. Sammy Vega.
He another father to me. He is a dad to me, man. Because he did things that I ain't have, that my own dad ain't do for me in my life. He was a big impact in my life and still is.
Proud of my boy Dwayne, scored a knockout over the 10-0 kid. Now he's 10-1.
That's good.
What are we? May of '98. Remember this for life.
Let me see Dwayne's face. Come here, Dwayne. Let me see your face, man.
See y'all later.
One of the most interesting things that I found interesting of Scully, that he would take guys that would hang around the gym that weren't even fighters. And, you know, they probably got bullied, but they would come in here, learn how to stand up for themselves and have nowhere to go. And obviously they weren't good enough to go to the tournaments. And Scully just had a good heart, and he would bring these guys to the tournaments. He'll be in the Ohio State Fair with kids that don't even box.
I remember when I was about 7, some random young guy from England messaged him on Facebook wanting to come over to America and train with him. So this guy just stayed with us for a summer at our house, and he became friends with my brothers. He taught me how to ride my bike, and we're still in touch with him, and we just connected with him a couple years ago when we visited London.
From starting out in the old gym with Johnny Duke, he's come all the way around to now he's the modern day Johnny Duke. He's looking out for all the kids, the underprivileged kids, the denied kids, lost kids who are saved by boxing. And now Scully has taken over that role, and I don't think he ever thought about it. I think it just became sort of a natural outgrowth of who he is. Boxing saves more kids than it hurts.
He's always liked to work with kids. He started out as a kid himself. He was 14 years old. And so he's always wanted to work with kids. He's always wanted to stay in the game somehow.
One thing that I definitely admire about him is how he can go from training world champions to local kids or just anyone who wants to train. He treats everyone with the same amount of respect and determination when training.
Listen, you got to work. Get all that reserve out of you. Let's get it. Because look, he does not like the exchanges. He does not like it.
He's been able to transition from fighter to trainer and do it with success and be able to speak to fighters at a high level and command their respect because of what he did and the way he thinks and what he can bring out of you. He understands not only the technique of boxing, but the mentality behind it as well, and the mindset that you have to have in order to be, you know, a great fighter.
I forgot who I fought, but I was just out of it. Like, you know, a lot of these coaches, they know when I don't feel like going to do it, I'm out of it. Scully came out of nowhere. This is the second time he slapped me. The first time was the Mohegan Sun. The second time he did it, we was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But the one in Mohegan Sun, he like going like this, like real hard. I'm looking like.
You got that in you? Come on, man. Look at that. Come on. You have that in you for Johnny Duke? Huh? Come on, Mike. Then let's go. Let's go. You need to win this round. I'm telling you right now. Come on. You need to trust me.
He's personable, and that's why he has done some commentating. You can put him on air. He knows a lot about the game. He just wants to give back a lot of the knowledge that he has.
The training is important, but he knew how to speak to you at the right moment. And I knew he was going to become one of the best trainers ever, you know. And look at now, he's training one of the best.
When I watch him, he's a great coach because he's very calm and he knows what he's doing because he was a fighter. He's got like an up in the game because he's been there. It's kind of like a Freddie Roach.
He doesn't need anyone to tell him. He's a driven animal. Now, dude, like sometimes he may time you and throw the right hand, so you got to push it down. I'm good at the jab. You know, I can teach guys how to throw a better jab. The body shots, the balance, you know, different things like that. But for me, I think anyone who knows me will know I'm all about the mentality. Because if you don't have the mentality of a professional fighter, of a warrior, of that type of person, then it doesn't matter how skilled you are, you're not going to succeed at the highest levels. So I'm all about the mentality and overcoming the things that I know that you're going to run into during the course of a fight. And me having been a fighter helps me because I know what fighters are going through. I'm not guessing, I'm not speculating, I'm not wishing to know what they're going through. I know what they're going through because I've done it myself so many times. So the mentality, I'm always going to build up my fighter's mentality. And in the year 2000, 1 year before my last fight, I ended up working with a female boxer by the name of Elizabeth Mueller, who was fighting for the world championship at Foxwoods.
So I first met John through my manager, Andy Macy. Andy's sons had been boxing for a long time, and they were really close with John. So sometimes we would go up to the San Juan Center and spar, and sometimes John would bring his fighters down to our gyms. And it was clear to me when I was watching him interact with his fighters that he genuinely cared about their well-being. And on a side note, he's kind of just fun to hang out with. I remember getting the call from Andy that John was going to work with us, and I was ecstatic because I felt like I had just won the lottery. When we first started trying to find fights as a professional, it was still kind of hard to find them. And when we approached promoters at Mohegan Sun, it was just a hard no. We don't support women's boxing. We persisted, and I got to fight, which is really cool. My last fight was in 2001, and that was for the IWBF Lightweight Championship.
To the winner by majority decision, Liz Muller. Liz Muller gets the win. Very good performance by both women. Now that's boxing. Whether you want to say women or men, that's boxing.
I hope people will also remember a little bit that he took a chance on women's boxing when it wasn't the cool thing to do. He was willing to look past like stereotypes and social expectations and whatnot, and he was willing to look for the skill. And when you worked with John, that's what he taught. It was the skill of boxing. And the minute you walk through those ropes, that was what's on display.
I ended up with, Chad Dawson and Jose Rivera, Mike Oliver. And Clay Bay was actually the first fighter I really trained on a full-time basis, which began in 2002.
Oh, Lawrence Claybay just knocks down Jeff Belovich with a right hand.
It's crazy that I ended up being a professional fighter because I've always been a huge boxing fan. And Mike Tyson used to have this saying, he's the baddest man on the planet. And that used to bother me. I said, I think I can get in there and do just as good. So that's what initially got me to the ring. When I decided to turn pro, I didn't want to do it here because I knew being home, I wouldn't be no good. As time went on and I became a little bit more, professional, I went with Scully because I knew he had the credentials and everything to carry me. So
before I ever trained, Lawrence was on the Olympic team. He's a good fighter, the whole nine.
Lawrence Claybay should crank up the jab, and that hurt him badly.
Klitschko is hurt, and a standing 8 count.
On his hand, some real good fights.
Oh, right hand hurts Fields. It staggered him, and somehow he didn't go down.
That same punch, the right hand.
He's been knocked out 3 times, and now he does go down. Good job of finishing there by Kleber.
He and I used to talk all the time about the mentality, the same thing I'm describing here, the mentality of a fighter. And I used to tell him, I'd rather die than have somebody stop a fight on me. And he's like, I don't know, that's a little crazy, you know, like.
Derek Bryan, I think, was the opponent who was fighting it. I want to say it was either Mohegan Sun or Foxwoods. And I was trying to juggle multiple jobs. I was corrections officer, part-time boxer. I realized during that fight, that don't work.
But I would tell him, I say, man, you know, I said, I don't stop fights. Like you're gonna, you know, if it ever comes down to it, you're gonna have to stop on your own because I'm not stopping it. You know, I'm in the Marvin Hagler mentality here.
Let's now bring in the Iceman, John Scully, former light heavyweight contender and the trainer for Lawrence Kleber. Scully, I know you've been trying to motivate him in between the past couple of rounds. Tell me what his status is in your eyes.
Listen, boxing, as Teddy very well knows, is very much a mental game. My job is to get him through this. I am not going to let this fight end on the stool. I know Kleber can do it. I've seen him do it in the gym. I've seen him do it in fights when he's been exhausted. I know he can hang it in there. He can pull it out. In these last 2 rounds, he could pull this fight out. I don't care. I'm not going to let him quit.
It's a good fight, and at one point, one of the rounds, Kleber hurts him, and there's about a minute left in the round, and he goes for the knockout. I'm like, all right, we got him. Then I realize, we're not going to get him. We're not going to get him. The guy's slipping. He's getting through it. So now I'm like, Clay, hold up, because I don't want him to burn himself out.
I ended up doing more fighting with John than the actual fight because I was telling John,
stop the fight.
John was like,
what? He goes,
dude, I got a job. I don't have to do this.
I go, Clay, come on, man. No, we got to suck it up. You know, comes back to the corner. He's exhausted.
Here's what Scully said to Kleber.
A draw. You win this round. You could quit. You don't have to step in the gym for the rest of your life. But you're going to win this round. You hear me?
He goes out the next round. He gets through it, but he's getting hit a lot. Like he's really getting hit. And I'll never forget, the doctor comes over after the next round.
He can hear these arguments in between rounds.
His exact words, it's been 19 years. I remember exactly. He said, John, your fighter's telling you something. You need to listen to him. I'm like, nah, Doc, nah. This is not a movie. Like,
so he finally was like, do you want me to stop the fight? And as weird as it is, I didn't want anyone other than John to stop the fight. So I told the referee, and I told the doctor, no.
And his daughter was 8 years old. I never forget it. She was 8 years old, Joya. And I said to him, I said, if you want to quit in front of Joya, then you quit. And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I know he's not going to quit, you know, when I put it that way. He goes, another round.
And then once we got to, I think it was a 10-round fight. Once we got to like round 8, when I got through round 8, I was like, oh, that's 2 more rounds. I can do that.
Comes back to the corner. He's looking at me. He says, all right, stop the fight. I laugh. I go, Clay, I said, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? I promise you, he laughed. He goes through, he gets a draw. Instead of getting a knockout loss, he gets a draw. Never fights again. That was the last fight. He walked off into the sunset.
So made it through it and never put the gloves on again after that fight.
What he did physically, mentally that night was special. Like for a fighter at his age, at his weight, 260 pounds, for him to suck it up as tired as he was, for him to do that as a miracle. It's as good as anything Evander Holyfield's ever done.
After that, I was so exhausted that I was in the dressing room and John was like, yeah, we're going to get back into the gym and we're going to do this. And I said, John, look at me. He says, what? He says, you had a rough night. I said, John, I'm done. I said, I'm done. And he was like, you sure? I said, dude, I am done. Well, that was it.
John Scully's legacy isn't just measured in titles or victories. It's in the lives he touched, the fighters he trained, and the fans he inspired along the way. From the ring to the commentator's booth, Scully's influence has left an inevitable mark on the boxing world. Colleagues, students, and fans alike speak of a man whose passion for the sport is matched only by his dedication to its future. For those who have walked in his footsteps, Scully's story serves as a blueprint for perseverance, integrity, and the pursuit of greatness.
several coaches during the course of my career, namely Joe Burrill, John Tynan, Pepe Vasquez, George Cruz. Those were my main trainers as an amateur and a pro. I like to think I picked a little something off of each of their styles.
John is the type, and a lot of coaches, they take you and they'll put you through a regimen. John will actually do the regimen with you.
When he was training and working with me, he got in the ring with me to spar and work with me, and he used to get in the ring and spar and work with me before he was training me, just to kind of when I needed that bigger boxer experience to get in there, and work out.
If your coach is doing it, who am I, any fighter, to say, I can't do that?
I would say one of John's superpowers as a coach is his ability to really analyze you as a fighter, and be able to say to you, look, if you want to become a champion, you need to be able to do X, Y, and Z. And he's equally skilled at being able to analyze you against your opponent and say, listen, if you want to win this fight, you need to do X, Y, and Z.
I love the transition he's made. Arthur better is the perfect guy for him, because that's exactly how Scully fought. He wasn't quite as powerful as Arthur, but that's exactly how he fought, the same concept. So I think he's doing great as a trainer.
And John has a unique way of kind of getting inside your head and figuring out how you work. But we'd be in the ring and he'd have the pads on, but he wouldn't call out combinations. And the drill was for me to control the ring, cut off the ring. I think it was that drill specifically that allowed me just that confidence. And it allowed me just to be able to be a much more effective fighter and just be able to showcase a lot of different skills.
Him and I spent training camps. He spent 8 weeks with us in London when we prepared for the World Championship fight. He was in camp with us when we got ready to box Roy Jones. I mean, he's just been an integral part of all of Otis's preparation and Otis's rise to World Championship.
Scully was different, and when I say different, because he was like us, and to this day, I have to be honest, he's like a kid in a grown-up body, but that's who he is.
Scully obviously took me under his wing. I come up here on the weekends, I'll train with him. Most of the training consists of we be training, but then we go pool hop and we jump in a scooter, go to Times Square. He drive us to Times Square, we'll hang out, or hang out at Papa's, late, but it was all in fun. We did get our training in.
One of the things that I tell Scully all the time, I get to brag, is I was his first world champion. So he branched off after helping me get my third world title, and catapulted to even bigger names and bigger champions and bigger opportunities.
He knew exactly what to say at any given time. And I think that's why, he lived it. He was a fighter. He's been doing it all his life. He's just one of the best because he's been through it. He knows how to and focus that on you as well as a fighter, man. Like, you believed everything he said, man. And if you didn't, 9 times out of 10, you were on the failing end of that.
And the one thing people don't realize is, like, when you work on developing kids and you're teaching kids from the ground up, it keeps you sharp because you remember the basics, because you have to teach them the basics first. Makes you a much better trainer in the long run with the upper echelon guys, because you remember the basics, because you do it almost every day. You understand me? When you don't do something every day, you kind of forget it. But when you do it every day, it's hard to forget it. And I think that's why Scully's turned into such a great trainer.
Unlike many fighters, John has been able to make the transition from a top-flight, world-class professional to a world-class trainer. And why? Because he works with amateur kids. He started with the amateur kids. He was able to develop them. He knew what it meant to take a kid and teach him how to jab, how to throw the right hand, how to build a fighter, which is something that trainers today in boxing don't do.
If it wasn't for him, who knows where I would have been? Who knows where I would be at now? Even to this day, right now, right? And touch my life in such a way that he the reason why I work with the kids right now. He the reason why I'm a trainer right now.
Now he's the one taking those kids in cars, to tournaments and helping them out. They don't have anything to eat, making sure they get something to eat, and spending time with them, training them, preparing them as more for life than for a successful boxing career, perhaps.
Last summer, another girl around my age in Scotland wanted him to train her, so that her and her dad flew over and stayed in Hartford, and she trained with him. And his dad was telling me how they're Muslim and they saw how he works with Artur Beterbiev, who's also Muslim, and they wanted my dad to train him partially because of how respectful he is of their culture and religion.
I will maintain my coaching philosophy because it's a life philosophy. I'm teaching the guys how to overcome, right? It's gonna be like that forever. Like I'm never gonna change.
From a young boy who would cross the tracks to the inner city of Hartford to a world-renowned boxer, trainer, and commentator, John Scully's journey is a testament to the power of determination and heart. His story reminds us that true champions aren't just defined by their victories, but by the legacy they leave behind.
I would go up, down 20 times. And then when I got up on the 20th, I had to shadow box immediately, even though I was really tired. And then I would turn around, I would run back home. So the 20 times up and down the hill was pretty rough. But when I could do that, and make it, then I knew I was in pretty good shape.
I don't know anybody in boxing who has, again, lived their dream to the fullest, full time.
If you were listing the best fighters to come out of Connecticut, I mean, you got Willie Pep is the king of kings, and in Marling, you wouldn't go too much further down the list before you'd run into John Scully, even though he didn't win a world title. But he's given most of his time to these kids who he knows 99.9% of them, they're not going to be world champions. They're not probably going to make any money at all.
This guy got a legacy in boxing that he know everybody in the world, so he'll bring them all together.
I got to say, over the years, me knowing John and seeing his commitment to the reunions that he's put on, mainly the 88 and the 92 teams, but just not that, but just boxing in general, how he's been there for many men.
Puts on auctions of, like while we're here, he'll have a poster and or glove sign, and he will auction them off online on Facebook.
Seeing him bring all these people together from all different walks of life in the boxing realm is something special, man. He's been instrumental in helping our charity and making sure money goes to the right places. Quite an inspiration to us.
Raising money for fighters, who thought about that? 100% of the money goes to the fighters. I've seen it with my own eyes.
John is beloved by everybody, be it in the amateurs and the pros, guys he boxed with, guys he didn't box with. John is the ultimate fan of boxing.
Anything going on, Scully's gonna keep us up on point with it. You understand me? And he's the only one that'll reach out and tell us anything going on with anybody that he thinks is important enough for us to know. And that's a beautiful thing.
It's a great thing that John's doing to help our fighters that are in need. When it comes to John, I mean, he's actually the only one that I know that right now is looking out for a lot of fighters that are not in the best shape.
Actually, I wrote a Ring Magazine piece about it. Initially, he just wanted to help a fighter that he knew, who he knew needed some help. Like a lot of things in boxing, it's taken on a life of its own.
The main thing as a person is John Scully. He's the most giving guy I've ever known in years. You call him and you tell him you need something, he's right there. There's no better friend to have other than John Scully.
I had the pleasure of meeting John Scully earlier this year. I actually bought a glove that he was selling on Facebook, and I was happy to support all the efforts that John is involved in to help out fighters.
He's a legend around here, in New England. Everybody knows the Iceman. The ice never melts over here, buddy.
I hate to talk about my state, but I just don't know if they appreciate someone like John. There should be a statue of the guy. The guy has given his life to boxing.
Now that I'm older, he groomed us to be the young men we are today in many ways.
I think his legacy is also going to be somebody that really cared about his community and cared about his fighters. And I think his legacy is going to be his analytical skills, whether he was analyzing or working with fighters to bring up their skills, or whether he was commenting on a fight. He has a way of articulating.
I think that he'll go down as a great amateur coach and influence on kids. He will go down as a great amateur. He's in the Golden Glove Hall of Fame.
I think there's going to only be him and Mark Breland in the history of boxing who nobody has a bad word to say about them. They're only two guys.
He played a big part in the Connecticut boxing scene, from young guys now to a lot of the older guys. He keep in touch with a lot of the older guys.
Scully is the guy who can bring the awareness of this to people, because often these people get forgotten. And you'd say, hey, do you know this guy? People today, they have no clue. John is that connection to the past.
I think he's the most passionate person I know. It's inspiring because I hope to be passionate about something as he is.
What you see, John is John, no matter where he is. He's at home, he's with the boxing crew, he's just a beautiful human being. Caring, honest, and real. So what you see is what you get.
If I didn't meet John Scully, I'll tell you right now, I probably wouldn't be in the position I'm in today.
Think he wouldn't be known as one of the top, greatest minds in boxing. He's also a man who's about his community and his people. He never forgot where he came from.
I would say John Scully's legacy is I found people who needed help, and I used boxing to help them, whether they were retired fighters now down on their luck, or a young kid who comes through the door with mismatched sneakers, an old pair of jeans, and not much confidence in themselves. And when they leave, they're being taken care of by the new Johnny Duke, John Scully. They become a different person.
And the beautiful thing is, here's a guy who will train Arthur Beterbiev, a multi-million-dollar fighter, but then he'll be down here for nothing, training a kid. So I think that's one of his greatest accomplishments.